California lost hundreds of thousands of residents in just a few short years. Not a trickle, not a vibe shift, an actual U-Haul clogging, Zillow-refreshing exodus. The Golden State, land of palm trees, tech billions, and $9 oat milk lattes, is watching people pack up and whisper, "Yeah, I'm good." And before you jump into the comments screaming, "It's just politics," relax. This isn't red versus blue. This is rent versus reality, crime headlines versus comfort, sunshine versus survival. Some of these cities used to be the dream. Now, they're shedding population faster than a Hollywood celebrity sheds bad press. We're talking shrinking tax bases, rising housing costs, neighborhoods with more for-lease signs than coffee shops. And trust me, you are not ready for number one. If you love brutally honest breakdowns of America's most hyped places, hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it.
Number 10. Fresno. Let's start in the belly of California. The agricultural powerhouse, the raisin capital, the place where summer feels less like a season and more like a dare. Fresno has been flirting with population decline for years, not a dramatic collapse, but a steady, uninspired shrug. The median home price hovers around the low to mid $400,000, which in California terms sounds like a clearance sale. Rent for a decent two-bedroom? Roughly $1,700 to $2,000 a month. Affordable compared to the coast, sure, but wages here don't exactly scream Silicon Valley. Median household income trails the state average, and unemployment regularly sits higher than the national rate. Crime? Violent crime rates remain above the national average, and property crime is no stranger either. It's not dystopian, but it's not sleepy Mayberry. You lock your car, you double-check your Ring camera, you keep it moving. Here's the paradox. Fresno is cheap for California, but expensive for what you get. The job market leans heavily on agriculture, healthcare, and local government. If you're not in one of those lanes, opportunities thin out fast. Tech workers aren't flocking here. Remote workers tried it during the pandemic, then quietly left when they realized 108-degree summers aren't a personality trait. And let's talk about those summers. The heat here doesn't shimmer, it presses. It sits on your chest like a cat that doesn't respect boundaries. Triple digits are routine. You plan your day around shade. Even the mosquitoes feel aggressive, like they've unionized and negotiated for overtime. On Reddit, you'll see locals say things like, "Fresno's fine if you keep to the good neighborhoods." That's usually followed by a list of which neighborhoods those are and which ones absolutely are not. The vibe isn't hopeless, it's defensive, like a city constantly explaining itself at a dinner party. And yet, there's potential. Yosemite is a short drive away, the Sierra Nevada mountains frame the horizon on clear days. The food scene punches above its weight if you know where to look. There's culture here, just not momentum. Picture this. You're standing on a suburban porch at sunset. The sky is a violent shade of orange, the air finally cooling from its daytime assault. Sprinklers tick across dry lawns. In the distance, the mountains glow purple. It's peaceful, almost beautiful. And then you check Zillow and realize even here the math barely works. And if you think Fresno is complicated, wait until you see what happened to a city that actually went bankrupt.
Number 9. Stockton. Stockton is the comeback story that keeps tripping over its own shoelaces. Once crowned one of America's foreclosure capitals during the Great Recession, this Central Valley river city famously filed for bankruptcy in 2012. It clawed its way back, technically, but reputations age slower than statistics. Today, median home prices hover around the low to mid $400,000. That's a massive jump from a decade ago. Rent for a two-bedroom often pushes $1,800 or more. Affordable by Bay Area standards? Sure. Affordable by local wage standards? That's where the tension starts. Median household income sits well below California's average, and many residents commute long hours towards the Bay Area for better pay, turning I-580 into a daily endurance sport. Crime remains the cloud Stockton can't shake. Violent crime rates consistently land above the national average, and property crime isn't exactly rare either. It's improved from its worst years, but the headlines linger. Safety is neighborhood dependent, and locals will absolutely tell you which streets to avoid. For a while, Stockton was marketed as the last affordable frontier for Bay Area refugees. Pandemic buyers poured in, prices rose, but now remote work is cooled, tech hiring is tightened, and some of those same newcomers are quietly recalculating. The commute feels longer when gas is expensive and optimism is thin. The city itself? It has bones, a waterfront, historic buildings, university life from University of the Pacific, farmers markets. There's grit and character here, not curated charm, but something real. Still, potential doesn't automatically equal momentum. Scroll through local forums and you'll find comments like, "Stockton isn't as bad as people say, but you have to know where you're at." That's the recurring theme, cautious defense, pride mixed with warning labels. And then there's the heat. Central Valley summers don't politely warm you up, they engulf you. Triple-digit afternoons feel standard issue. The air can turn smoky during wildfire season. It's the kind of climate that tests your devotion to affordable living. Picture this. You're standing near the Delta waterfront at dusk. The water reflects streaks of pink and gold. Boats bob quietly. For a moment, it feels like Northern California's hidden gem. Then your phone buzzes with a crime alert notification, and the spell breaks just a little. And if you think Stockton's balancing act is intense, wait until you see what happens when an entire metro area becomes a commuter compromise.
Number 8. Riverside. For years, Riverside was the escape hatch. When home prices in Los Angeles started climbing into the stratosphere, people looked east, past the smog line, beyond the coastal breeze, and said, "Hey, we can afford that." And just like that, Riverside became the Inland Empire's golden compromise. The median home price now floats around the mid-500,000s. Not coastal insane, but no longer the bargain it once was. Rent for a two-bedroom commonly lands between $2,000 and $2,400. Meanwhile, median household income hasn't exactly kept pace with those increases. The affordability gap that once made Riverside attractive, it's narrowing fast. Crime sits above national averages in certain categories, particularly property crime. Violent crime isn't sky high, but it's not a sleepy suburb either. Like many California cities, safety depends heavily on which neighborhood you call home. Then there's the commute, the legendary soul-draining commute. Riverside residents heading into Los Angeles or Orange County often face 60 to 90 minutes each way. On a good day. On a bad day, bring snacks and patience, and maybe an audiobook about mindfulness. Summer here feels like standing inside a hairdryer set to maximum regret. Triple-digit temperatures are routine. Shade is currency. Even the palm trees look tired by August. During the pandemic, Riverside boomed. Remote workers flocked east, chasing square footage and backyard space. But as offices reopen and hybrid work becomes reality, some residents are quietly questioning the math again. Long drives, rising prices, and utility bills that spike every time the AC kicks on. The compromise is starting to feel expensive. Local chatter online often sounds like this: Riverside's great if you don't have to leave Riverside. Translation: if your job, friends, and life are local, you're fine. If not, buckle up. And yet, Riverside has charm. Historic Mission Inn, citrus groves that whisper about its agricultural past, mountain backdrops that glow pink at sunset. It's not ugly, it's just complicated. Picture this. You're standing in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac at 7 p.m. The heat is finally loosening its grip, kids ride bikes in slow circles, the mountains in the distance turn lavender. It feels peaceful. Until you remember your alarm is set for 5 a.m. so you can beat traffic that will still beat you anyway. And if you think Riverside's commuter calculus is exhausting, wait until you see what happens when the state capital itself starts losing its shine. Number 7. Sacramento. Ah yes, California's capital, the city of lobbyists, legislation, and lanyards. For a brief, shining pandemic moment, Sacramento looked like the big winner. Bay Area refugees flooded in, chasing homes under $600,000 and backyards bigger than a yoga mat. Prices surged, neighborhoods transformed, the vibe felt upward. Then reality tapped everyone on the shoulder. Today, median home prices sit around the mid-$500,000 to low $600,000, depending on neighborhood. Rent for a two-bedroom typically ranges from $2,000 to $2,500. That's still cheaper than San Francisco, but Sacramento wages aren't San Francisco wages either. Yes, government jobs provide stability, but outside of state employment and healthcare, salary growth hasn't exactly exploded. Crime is where the narrative gets sticky. Property crime runs above the national average, and certain areas struggle with violent crime. Car break-ins are almost a cultural ritual. Locals joke about leaving nothing visible in your vehicle, not even a phone charger, unless you're donating it to the neighborhood. Homelessness is highly visible in certain corridors. Encampments along the American River Parkway have become a talking point. It's not unique to Sacramento, but it's noticeable, and perception often hits harder than statistics. Scroll through local forums and you'll find comments like, "Sacramento's fine, just avoid downtown at night," or "It's not as bad as people say, but it's definitely changed." There's a defensive optimism, pride wrapped in a sigh. And then there's the weather. Summer here is Central Valley adjacent. Triple-digit days stack up. The heat radiates off sidewalks like it's personal. Winters are mild, sure, but wildfire smoke season has become a recurring character in the story. Sacramento still has tree-lined streets, farm-to-fork dining bragging rights, and access to both Tahoe and Napa within a couple hours. It's not collapsing, it's recalibrating. The question is whether the recalibration feels worth the cost. Picture this. You're walking beneath towering oak trees in Midtown. String lights flicker outside a buzzing restaurant. The air smells like grilled garlic and dry leaves. It feels almost European until you check your rent payment and remember this isn't Paris, it's payroll deduction season. And if you think the capital's identity crisis is interesting, wait until we step into the suburbs surrounding a city where the American dream now requires a six-figure down payment. Number 6. Los Angeles suburbs. For decades, the suburbs surrounding Los Angeles were the promise, the backup plan, the "we can't afford Beverly Hills, but we can afford this" compromise. Tree-lined streets, two-car garages, the faint illusion of quiet. Now, even the compromise comes with a $900,000 price tag. Across many Los Angeles suburban communities, from the San Fernando Valley to parts of the San Gabriel Valley and beyond, median home prices commonly range from the high 800,000s to well over $1 million. Rent for a two-bedroom apartment can hover between $2,700 and $3,500, sometimes more depending on proximity to the coast or a good school district. Meanwhile, median household income, while higher than state averages in some pockets, still struggles to justify those mortgage payments without stretching thin. Crime in the suburbs is typically lower than in the urban core, but property crime, catalytic converter thefts, car break-ins, has crept upward in recent years. It's not chaos, but it's not the pristine 1990s sitcom version of suburbia either. Then there's insurance. Wildfire risk has quietly become the villain in this story. Homeowners in certain hillside or brush-adjacent neighborhoods have seen premiums spike or policies dropped altogether. Nothing says peaceful suburban life like calling 5 insurance companies just to get basic coverage. And let's talk about commuting. Even if you don't live in the city, you live in its gravity. Freeways here aren't roads, they're emotional tests. A 15-mile drive can feel like a long-haul relationship. Remote work helped for a while, but hybrid schedules brought traffic roaring back like it never left. Online, locals often say things like, "It's safe, but it's not worth the price anymore." That's the sentiment simmering under the surface. The schools might be solid, the neighborhoods might be clean, but the math feels aggressive. Still, at sunset, these suburbs can look cinematic. Palm trees silhouetted against pink skies, lawns glow golden, the mountains loom in the distance like protective giants. Picture this. You're standing in your driveway at dusk. The air smells faintly of jasmine and car exhaust. Kids bounce a basketball somewhere down the block. It feels stable, predictable, almost perfect. Then your mortgage notification hits, and suddenly that stability feels like a very expensive subscription. And if you think suburban sticker shock is wild, wait until we head north to a city wrestling with headlines that refuse to fade. Number 5. Oakland. Oakland is the city that tries to have it all: culture, history, tech-adjacent jobs, and a reputation is edgy and sometimes succeeds, but often trips spectacularly. Median home prices in Oakland now hover around $900,000, and rent for a modest two-bedroom apartment often exceeds $3,000. That's a lot of money for a city where violent crime rates run above the national average, and property crime keeps insurance companies awake at night. Oakland isn't unsafe per se, but it's the kind of place where you instinctively lock your car, double-check the doors, and sometimes reconsider taking the long way home. The city has gentrified aggressively over the past decade, creating pockets of high-end coffee shops and artisanal toast alongside neighborhoods still grappling with crime and vacancy. The Bay Area exodus hasn't spared Oakland. Remote work and cost of living pressures have pushed many residents to Sacramento, Reno, and further east, leaving behind a city that feels both alive and exhausted simultaneously. Reddit users often summarize it with brutal efficiency. Oakland is amazing if you can afford to pretend the bad parts don't exist. Translation: enjoy the murals, the music scene, and the waterfront. Just keep your wits about you. Summer heat isn't extreme, but the urban density traps warmth at night, making even a mild evening feel like a sauna. Traffic is a slow-motion nightmare. The Bay Bridge can test your patience and your bladder. Picture this: you're walking past Jack London Square at sunset. The water glints off the docks. Street musicians play jazz on the corners. The smell of sourdough and coffee drifts through the air. You almost forget about the for lease signs down the block. Almost. And if you think Oakland's balancing act between charm and chaos is intense, wait until we drop into the sun-soaked, cost-exploding fantasy that is Orange County. Number 4. Orange County. Orange County is California's poster child for polished suburbia, the land of pristine beaches, endless strip malls, in a price tag that could make your wallet weep. Median home prices here routinely hover above $1 million. Rent? Expect to pay $3,000 to $4,000 for a two-bedroom that doesn't even have ocean views. For decades, this county was a magnet for people chasing the SoCal dream: excellent schools, safety, and sunshine. But the math has caught up. Wages haven't risen fast enough to match skyrocketing housing costs, leaving even middle-class families feeling squeezed. Crime is comparatively low, especially violent crime, but it's not non-existent. Property crimes, petty thefts, and car break-ins quietly spike in certain neighborhoods. Meanwhile, HOA fees, insurance costs, and the ever-present threat of wildfire add invisible pressure to already bloated budgets. Reddit and local forums are filled with variations of "it's gorgeous, but I can't afford to stay," or "moved here for the schools, now I'm rethinking everything." That's the theme: beauty versus affordability, calm versus financial anxiety. And let's not forget the traffic. Even if your house is perfect, the 405, 5, and 55 freeways turn your daily commute into a study in frustration. Summer heat isn't as punishing as the Central Valley, but the ocean breeze is a tease. It whispers paradise while reminding you that paradise comes at a mortgage rate you might need a second job to cover. Picture this: you're walking along Huntington Beach at sunset. The sky bleeds orange and pink, surfers paddle into rolling waves, palms sway lazily. It feels like the cover of a brochure until you remember that your rent just doubled and your car is parked in a gated lot under 95-degree heat. And if you think Orange County is a sun-drenched nightmare wrapped in a million-dollar dream, wait until you step into the city that invented both glamour and gridlock: Los Angeles. Number 3. San Jose. San Jose, the crown jewel of Silicon Valley, home to tech billionaires, Google buses, and the smell of optimism mixed with expensive takeout. On paper, it should be booming. In reality, the city is quietly losing ground. Median home prices here flirt with $1.2 million, and two-bedroom apartments regularly rent for $3,500 to $4,500. Meanwhile, median household income isn't keeping pace with those astronomical costs. Unless you're a software engineer or venture capitalist, your paycheck might feel like a gentle slap in the face. Tech layoffs, remote work, and the migration to cheaper regions have slowed population growth, and some longtime residents are quietly fleeing to Austin, Denver, or the Midwest entirely. Crime in San Jose is lower than in Oakland or Stockton, but property crimes, especially car break-ins, have become part of the cultural wallpaper. Locals joke that leaving anything visible in your car is an invitation. Safety is neighborhood-dependent. Gated communities are calm, while transit hubs require vigilance. The city's charm is undeniable if you're wired into tech culture. Innovation hubs, diverse cuisine, craft coffee shops on every corner. But outside of that bubble, it can feel like a sterile maze of office parks and traffic lights, with a price tag that makes your blood pressure rise faster than the freeway congestion. Redditors often say, San Jose is great if your job pays 6 figures and you never leave it. Translation? If your life isn't in tech, good luck. And even if it is, remote work now allows you to live somewhere cheaper, sunnier, or just more sane. Picture this. You're standing in downtown San Jose at sunset. The glow of office buildings reflects off the glassy streets. The faint hum of tech buses passes by. It's vibrant, futuristic, and somehow exhausting. You love it, but it's asking a lot from your bank account and your patience. And if you think San Jose's tech-fueled stress is intense, wait until we dive into a city that's traffic, glamour, and chaos all rolled into one. Los Angeles. Number 2. Los Angeles. Los Angeles, the city that sold the world a dream. Palm trees, movie stars, and endless summer. The reality? Sometimes it feels like buying a ticket to paradise and getting stuck in traffic for eternity. Median home prices in LA hover around $900,000 to $1 million, while rents for a 2-bedroom apartment can easily hit $3,000 to $4,000 depending on the neighborhood. For many residents, that's more than half of a paycheck gone before they even buy avocado toast. Meanwhile, the city struggles with crime rates above the national average in some areas, especially property crime. Homelessness is highly visible on major streets, a daily reminder of income inequality that even Hollywood can't glamorize. Traffic is legendary, a spiritual trial disguised as a commute. A 10-mile drive can feel like an odyssey, testing your patience, your bladder, and your playlist. Even public transportation feels like a reminder that the city is built for cars and wealth, not the average commuter. LA still dazzles. Beaches, Griffith Observatory, iconic architecture, and the perpetual hum of possibility. But that magic comes with noise, smog, and a monthly budget that makes even millionaires flinch. Reddit and local forums echo a bitter refrain. LA is amazing if you don't have to work a normal job. That's the cruel joke. To thrive here, your life often needs to revolve around the kind of money and flexibility most people simply don't have. Picture this. You're at a rooftop bar in downtown LA. The sunset streaks across skyscrapers. The air smells faintly of tacos and exhaust. Somewhere below, traffic groans like a tired beast. You sip your overpriced cocktail, soaking in the city's energy and chaos, loving it, hating it, trapped in its contradictions. And if you think Los Angeles is intense, wait until you see the city that made headlines during the pandemic for empty streets, soaring rents, and a tech-driven exodus, San Francisco. Number 1. San Francisco. And here it is, the crown jewel of California exodus stories. San Francisco, once the poster child of innovation, culture, and tech-fueled wealth, is now a city quietly shedding residents like leaves in the fall.
Median home prices hover around $1.4 to $1.5 million, and rent for a two-bedroom apartment regularly surpasses $4,000. Office towers sit partially empty post-pandemic, while neighborhood shops shutter under skyrocketing costs. Crime rates, particularly property crime, remain above national averages, and the city's famed homelessness crisis is visible on every street corner. It's not dystopia, it's the price of extreme density, extreme cost, and extreme expectations colliding. Tech layoffs and remote work have accelerated departures. Bay Area commuters are fleeing to Sacramento, Reno, and beyond, searching for space, sanity, and something resembling affordability. Even longtime locals, artists, service workers, small business owners quietly reassess whether the city they loved is livable anymore. San Francisco still dazzles. The Golden Gate, winding streets, historic cable cars, murals, and fog that hugs the hills like a moody blanket. It's cinematic at every turn. But that beauty demands sacrifice, money, patience, and tolerance for daily chaos. Reddit comments sum it up brutally. San Francisco is amazing until your rent and stress levels double every year. That's the essence here. Incredible city, punishing lifestyle. You either thrive in the bubble or quietly vanish into the hinterlands. Picture this. You're standing at Ocean Beach at dusk. Fog rolls in, turning the sunset into a watercolored dream. Seagulls wheel overhead. The smell of salt and seaweed fills your lungs, and somewhere behind you, a homeless encampment hums quietly, a reminder that even paradise has its shadows. San Francisco is the ultimate cautionary tale, a city so beautiful it makes your heart sing, yet so expensive it might make your wallet cry. And if you thought number 2 was rough, you weren't ready for this one.
So there you have it. 10 California cities where the exodus is real, and the hype doesn't match the reality. From Fresno's blistering summers to San Francisco's foggy million-dollar streets, the story is the same. Beauty, opportunity, and culture wrapped in a package that's increasingly expensive, stressful, or both. California isn't collapsing, it's transforming. Some cities are shrinking, others are booming, and the ones on this list serve as a reminder that sunshine's state of mind comes with a hefty price tag. Affordability, safety, and livability are moving targets, and for many, the dream is shifting east, north, or even out of state entirely. If you thought these cities were untouchable, remember, the next great California story isn't about who's leaving, it's about where people are quietly flocking instead. Hit like if you learned something shocking, subscribe for brutally honest city breakdowns, and comment below. Where would you run if California became too much?